Hello, my name's June Rogers and I'm a specialist children's nurse, and I work for Bladder and Bowel UK, which is a national charity for adults and children with bladder or bowel problems. We have a helpline, a website where there's lots of downloadable resources, and also you can get in touch with us via email. And for your information, there's some details about our website and the helpline numbers and the email address. Okay, so I'm here today to talk about constipation. Now, constipation is very common in children. In fact, about 30% of all children at any one time will have a problem with constipation to a lesser or greater degree. But we also know that certain groups of children are more prone to have a problem with constipation, such as those with cerebral palsy or Down syndrome. And because we know that they are at risk, there's things that we can do to help prevent the constipation developing. And certainly things like ensuring a good fluid intake, ensuring a good diet with lots of fruit and veg, all go a long way to helping prevent constipation. And that's important because although fluids and diet are good at preventing constipation, once constipation is established, then diet alone will not help resolve the constipation, and children will need to take laxatives, and I'll say a bit more about laxatives later on. We also know that at certain times in a child's life they can be more prone to developing constipation. For example, stopping breastfeeding and going to cow's milk when they're weaning, potty training and starting school. So these things can make us alert and to look out for problems with constipation. So how do you know if your child's got a problem with constipation? The interesting thing is that children present with constipation differently than adults. Most adults think constipation is not going for a few days, having tummy ache and passing, hard stools and having straining. While some of that is the same for children. Children can actually have their bowels open every day, still do a poo every day and still be constipated. So as a rule of thumb, what we suggest is that children should poo at least 3 times a week and no more than 3 times a day. And certainly if children are straining, if they appear to be frightened of doing a poo, crossing legs, hiding, it may be because they've had a previous experience of passing a poo that was a bit hard and uncomfortable. And obviously that's frightened them in terms of doing it again. And also we know that children who seem to poo a lot and can actually sometimes present as having constipation, as having diarrhea, these children can actually be really bunged up and have what we call overflow soiling. Some children may have tummy ache, but not all, but you may find that their tummy appears a bit bigger and a bit harder to the touch. So if you do suspect your child has a problem with constipation, then do seek help from a healthcare professional. We really don't know why children are so prone to developing constipation, but the problem with constipation in children is that even when it's treated, they are at risk of it coming back again. The reason being is when children develop constipation, because their bowel is so soft and pliable, when they're bunged up and when they're constipated, the bowel stretches a bit like when you get a balloon, those long balloons, and you inflate it with air and it expands, and then after a few days the air goes out and the bowel and the balloon is left all baggy and saggy. And that's what happens with children with constipation. So actually they need the laxatives to keep the poo moving through the bowel, and then what that then does is allow the bowel to recover, for the tone to come back. So for children that are on laxatives and they're pooing regularly and they're pooing nice soft stools with no problems, they need to stay on the laxatives for a good few weeks, if not months, if not longer, because the longer the child's had a problem with constipation, the longer it will take for the bowel to recover. And it is important that we allow the bowel to recover, otherwise the children will just relapse again at the drop of a hat. Now, I think, and that's one of the reasons why it's really important to treat constipation. A lot of parents say, oh, I don't want my child to start taking laxatives. Laxatives makes the bowel lazy. I don't like my child having medication. Well, although there's lots of myths about laxatives and they're all totally incorrect. I sat on the NICE guidelines for childhood constipation and we reviewed lots and lots and lots of research evidence, and there was absolutely no evidence whatsoever that said long-term laxatives will make children's bowels lazy. In fact, what causes the problems with the bowels is the constipation itself. As I say, it overstretches the bowel, and that actually makes the poo work even slower through it, and that's in the children then develop this vicious circle of ongoing constipation. So if your child is prescribed laxatives, it's really important you take the laxatives, and if the dose that you've been prescribed doesn't seem to be working, then don't stop. Go back to your healthcare professional and ask for further advice. Now, just talking about laxatives, there's two types of laxatives that your child may be prescribed. One type is what's called a softener, and examples of this could be lactulose or something like Movicol. Although they're both a softener, they actually work differently. Lactulose is a chemical sugar, and that works by drawing water into the poo by osmosis. And so it's really important that children drink plenty if they're on lactulose. The issue with lactulose is because it's a chemical sugar, the bacteria in the gut feed on it and they produce a lot of gas, and it can make children windy, bloated and feel uncomfortable. The other softener is Movicol, and it's what's known as a macrogol, and this is actually been recommended by NICE. And how Movicol and other macrogols work, such as Laxido, how they work is that you mix the powder with a specific amount of fluid, which is 62.5, and that water, the powder is mixed, is then locked into a bolus of fluid which binds with the poo. And so no matter how long the poo sits in the bowel, the poo stays soft and easy to pass. And because it bulks up the poo with water, it also stimulates what's known as natural peristalsis, which is the movement of poo through the bowel. Because it's bulked up with water, it fools the bowel into thinking it's full and wanting to empty. And because it's bulked up with water, it is soft and easy to pass. And so Movicol works only by altering the consistency of the poo. So it's very safe to take, even for very young children and even for babies. Now, the other type of laxative is called a stimulant laxative, and this actually works systemically. So it actually works on the bowel itself, and how it works is that it stimulates the bowel to contract and push the poo out. Now, some children may be prescribed both a softener and a stimulant, depending on the degree of bowel problems. And so just want to reassure you that it's totally safe for children to take laxative, and it actually prevents the constipation actually causing long-term damage to the bowel. So just for some key points for you to remember, that always encourage your child to drink plenty of water and encourage fibre-rich foods like fruit and vegetables. And for example, we know that fruit that's got stones in, like apricots and peaches, they actually are very beneficial for the bowel. We've also found that actually sitting children on potties, so once weaning is established, sitting your child on a potty after meals is really good, because that actually then gets the child in a squatty position, which actually helps the pelvic floor relax and also helps the bowel to actually empty more effectively. So looking at diet, looking at food, looking at sitting on potties, it is really, really important. And as I say, if you suspect that your child's got a problem with constipation, then do seek help and advice. And once your child has been treated and they've stayed on the laxatives for a sufficient length of time, then they should have, it doesn't cause any long-term problems. But as I say, for some children, they may have to stay on it. And we know that children have been on laxatives for many months, if not years, and absolutely no problem whatsoever. For more advice and information about managing constipation in childhood, please feel free to contact us either by phone, email, or have a look on our website. Hope that was helpful. Thank you very much.